This week I'm going to make some egg rolls. This is a recipe that I've made quite a bit in the past. To start, I'm going to cut up some celery. I have about 16 ounces of celery here. I'll try to get it finely diced. So the easiest way to start that is to leaving part of the celery stalk together. I'm going to cut strips down the stalk. Which will help start the dice there, and then just nice and thin. Alright, next need to dice up like some mushrooms. So I'm going to measure out about an ounce. Typically I'll buy them already kind of sliced like this. Makes it a little faster to get them cut up the rest of the way. I'm going to grab this big bowl because the next is going to be cabbage. About 16 ounces or a pound. This head of cabbage is about 2 pounds. What I'm going to do for this, because I don't want these ridges, they're a little bit harder to get thinly sliced into something like egg rolls. So I'm going to actually take out the core. So the core goes in, it's like a cone. So you can use a knife to kind of do some cuts around the base, going in at an angle. I'll take out the core. From there it'll help it separate a little better. What I'm going to try to do is pull these leaves off as much as I can. And it's fine if they break up. And what my goal is I'm going to cut out these ridges here in the center. As I have clusters with these. I'm going to cut them in half and then do some fine cuts. And if that's too tedious, one thing you can do to get the core out, you just half it. And a lot of these outer areas will be kind of the thin ones that we want. So you can try to get a nice fine cut going and then manually pick out parts that are too thick. And sometimes you can break up these inner parts if you've gotten it cut small enough. What you don't want is you don't want a large chunk that's going to push through the egg roll wrapper. That's about 15 ounces. I'm going to do a little bit more because I like more cabbage in my egg rolls than normal. There. And this bit I'll toss and this bit I'll save for something else. Once the vegetables are cut, you use the same cutting board to cut up the shrimp that's going to go in. So this recipe calls for ground pork and shrimp. So I have measured out a pound of shrimp and I have softened them. So these were frozen. We got them already shelled in the bag. So with these, what we're going to do is we're going to need to cut them up, to dice them up. So I don't need to measure, but I'll use that bowl. Usually what I like to do, move some things out of the way. As the first cut, I usually like to try to see if I can get like straight down the middle where it would have been deveined. That way when I cut across, I get more pieces of the shrimp. Now that everything's all cut up, I've got a pan started on the stove. So the first thing we're going to add to this is we need some oil. So we need about 2 tablespoons of oil. And to the oil, we're going to add pork. So I'm going to grab as I put this pork in, I'm going to break it up with my hand already. The end goal here is going to be smaller cooked parts of pork that'll fold well with everything else. What I'm going to use here is a hard so I would use the spoon, but I may use both just to help pull these apart as it's cooking. And the goal here is just to get to the point where we have no more pink. Alright, we're almost there. So this takes about 2 minutes. And to this we're going to add the shrimp that we cut up, as well as the mushrooms, and 2 ounces of soy sauce and a tablespoon of sugar. Add in the shrimp now. Just get that kind of spread out. At this point, I can move to mostly using the wooden spoon. And now we're just trying to get to the point where the shrimp is pink. Alright, so at this point it's done. I'm going to pull this all out into a separate bowl. Use the same pan. With the same amount of oil, I'm going to add in the vegetables, which is the celery, cabbage, this is a lot, but it will cook down, so what I'm going to do is grab a lid, and I'll put this lid on top and help it kind of steam for a bit. Alright, I moved everything to a pot so I have room to work. After about 4 to 5 minutes, add in bean sprouts. I'm doing 6 ounces of bean sprouts. Salt. I'm going to put half of that in with the cabbage. Get this all mixed up. And to this, I'll add the pork mixture back. that comes to a boil, we're going to add in 2 ounces of water and 1 ounce of cornstarch. And then keep mixing it. That'll give us a good thickened kind of sheen to the sauce. And once it thickens, you just turn the heat off, pull it off, and if you're not going to use it the same day, you want to refrigerate this. So you're going to let this cool down. You want to make sure this is cool before you work with it, because you don't want the heated filling to start interacting with the wrapper. Alright, so I got the filling transferred into a smaller bowl just to not take up so much space. And what we're going to do is you want to avoid grabbing the filling with your hands. Just because you'll be rolling them with your hands, and so if you're grabbing them with your hands as well, then that can result in your fingers sticking to parts as you're trying to roll them. So I'll usually grab a spoon and get a spoonful of the filling. If it looks like I need a little bit more, I'll get a little bit more. So what you'll do is you need a small cup of water. You'll kind of tuck this part in to pull the filling, and with a finger and water wet the wrapper. This is where you're going to fold it over onto. This is going to allow it to form a seal. Then you bend the ends in and then finish rolling. And there you can see that it's stuck to itself. You want to make sure you get a good seal on these, because as you fry them, if there is a leak, you're going to get filling out into the frying oil, and it's going to start going crazy because of the moisture in the filling. So behind me I have some oil going. You need to get it to, I believe, 375. Yeah, 375 degrees. And so I only have it on like a medium, just so I can slowly start getting the temperature up. When I'm getting closer to actually frying them, I'll turn up the heat to get it up to temperature. One thing you can do too here is when you do that fold, you can add a little bit more water to the parts that you folded from the sides. It can help add some more sealing to that. And we'll just go until we have either run out of filling or run out of wrappers. With the amount of filling that I have, I'm most likely going to run out of wrappers first. But each of these has about, I think, 20, so it'll give me a total of 40. Alright, I've got the oil on the stove, got it up to 375. Now while frying these, the kind of balance and dance and trick is going to be to keep the oil hot enough to fry them, each new batch, while not getting it so high that it burns them. So you want to keep it around 375, but you got to realize that each of these that you add in is going to reduce the temperature of the frying oil as it's frying. And then after you remove them, you'll have to give it a little bit of time to come back up. So you want to not drop these in, you want to just place them in so that they slide under the surface of the oil. And I usually try to get 3 in a pot this size. They'll go for about 3 minutes. 3 to 4 minutes. You just kind of push them apart so they don't stick to each other. And they'll typically float to the surface when they're finished. See this one? It's pretty brown. Pretty good. I'm going to pull it out. One of these sounds like it might be leaking, so that one's pretty good. So some of these are pretty heavy. Pretty decent amount of filling in them. So you're going to have to look through the bubbles and see how brown they are. You can grab them and pull them out and see how they're doing. I'm just going to grab 3 of these so I can get them in like kind of one after another. Okay, now the temperature's gotten down to about 350, so I'm going to have to give it some time to recover. And just continue this process until you've finished cooking them all.